Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Disruptive Franchise Podcast. My guest today is the amazing Ed Purnell. Ed, welcome.
Hey, how's it going? All right.
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you so much for being on. I am really looking forward to this chat, actually.
Go on then. Why is that?
Nervous laugh. Because I'll tell you why, actually, because you were one of the very early ones involved in the first ever Disruptive Franchise Awards. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But I find it really intriguing with all the stuff that you do within franchise because your experience isn't that traditional. We'll talk about all of this. I'll ask you all the questions. Like your route into franchise isn't like I grew up with franchise and this and this. And we've collaborated on like events and things like that in the past. And what I always love about your involvement and when we're chatting is that in theory, what we do is similar, but we have such different takes that actually I think our worlds complement each other really nicely. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Cool. I'm not now. I'm worried. I'm
Worried.
only joking. I'm joking.
Don't be worried. You're so good at all of this. Like you have nothing to worry about. It will be fine. So Ed, tell us a little bit about your business, what you do, where you come from, that blind date kind of scenario. Tell us a little bit about you.
God, I've been on one blind date and I went awfully, so I don't really want to go down that road again.
I won't buy my hat then.
No. Yeah. I'm the founder and director of a company called The Franchised, and we help franchisors to fine-tune their franchise recruitment to amplify their growth. So that's the quick, short, simple kind of explanation for it. But what does it mean in reality? I guess we do a lot of audits and strategy days for franchise recruitment. So taking a look at the process from um, prospect attraction all the way through to signature. What does that look like? What do the communication plans look like? And design that process so it's as efficient as possible, converting the right franchisees into a franchise. Along the way, what generally tends to happen is you find that a lot of content needs to be created or marketing collateral. So I then work with a team who deliver on those various elements. So sometimes that comes in the form of podcasts that I'm creating for big brands at the moment. Sometimes it's brochure creation, franchise brochure creation. Other times it's video testimonials. Yeah, it comes in all different shapes and sizes, copywriting, things like that. So yeah, we also do a little bit of lead management as well, which is a new service we're sort of pushing out there. So yeah, lots of different things. I also do a podcast or two as well for myself. So the franchise podcast is 2 episodes in now, and I've got another one in the pipeline that's come about as a spin-off that I'm putting out there soon as well. But yeah, so do all of that good stuff. Also have a couple of events as well. So the Franchise Innovation Think Tank and the Franchise Social, which are always the day before the franchise show. So yeah, loads of stuff.
I love that you've got your finger in so many pies and you do all these different things. And it's a really innovative approach because you're doing things that nobody else has done before. That's what I really love. So like the way that you look at things, I think must be quite different to like that bog standard, like we do this, we do this, we do this. Your content approach, for example, like I'm guessing that you, when you sit down and work with a client, they have no idea actually what content they need, but you can look at that and go, well, you need this, 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 and this.
Yeah, so my role franchisor side meant that I got to explore and test pretty much every avenue out there and start to tweak and fine tune all of the various different elements of franchise recruitment. And what you start to sort of realize is that straightforward adverts on social media don't work as well as when you build some content around it. So it's the classic kind of PR brand awareness piece first, and then consideration content, and then converting content. It's the funnel, marketing funnel. It rings true, right? So yeah, I tend to put some quite personal stuff out there because it allows people to connect with me, um, have empathy for what I'm doing, and understand my why and stuff like that. And then in comes with a bit more of a sales message, maybe, or here's some advice on what you should be doing to do things better, and then buy buy from me now kind of content. So yeah, you think you have to have that mix to get that full funnel pull together. So I don't know if that's what you were talking about, but that's generally the approach I try and take. Um, Fingers in lots of different pies. I think it's just because when I see frustration or I see that somebody's not doing something, I've tried not to moan about stuff. I went through a period in my life where I was sort of sitting there and just moaned about what other people were or weren't doing and thinking, oh, it should be done better, or wish that was better, or wish this was a thing. Whereas more recently, I've just gone, well, why don't I do it then? If there's no one else doing it, why don't I do it? So that's how things like the Franchise Innovation Think Tank came about. That's how the podcast came about. It was just someone's got to do it, so I might as well be the one. Why not? Is
Yeah,
that thing?
might as well
What?
be the one, and I'll do it properly. That's what I like.
Yeah. So people say, why should I do it? And I think, why not me? Is the approach to try and take.
Yeah, I love that. Why not me? That I have that as an affirmation on my phone actually that comes up. Well, why not me? Like we tell ourselves we can't because I can't do that because of this, or I can't do that because of that person. Like, yeah, why not you? Like, why not be the one who just does it? And I think that's what's kind of that's what's helped to get you very well known actually, because you do spot those things and you do go do them. Certainly in the circles that I run in with franchise, like you are known as an innovator because of the think tank, because of what I actually really liked when I first kind of started to kind of follow you around the internet was the Disenfranchised podcast that you did with Joe Middleton, because it was those opposing views that you're arguing whether you believe them or not. And I just thought there's nothing else like that. I really liked it.
That was the full disclosure podcast, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, you're right.
I know I've had too many.
So many podcasts.
Yeah, there was a good set of podcasts where, yeah, it. I think I wanted to say some stuff to other franchisors because I knew how I felt about it, but also I knew that my mind had changed at times about it, and it's quite interesting to see both sides of the argument, and that sort of panned out when I was doing those podcasts with Joe. So one of my things was I thought magazine PR was absolutely pointless and a waste of time. And that was because the brand I was working for, it pretty much was, it wasn't the best approach for us to go out there and find people. But um, after arguing for magazine PR, after sort of having to sit there and do the research and think about it and think about why it is, a good avenue for some people and some brands, you start to go, actually, it's just one of those things where everything's got its place. A lot of the time, yeah, it's perhaps not as prevalent as it used to be, but there's still some things that, depending on your target market, target clients, they're really relevant. A case in point for this has been I wrote an article for Elite Franchise recently about how we need to attract and appeal to a younger audience within the franchising industry, and kind of it's not just one person who can do it. It's got to be a collective, and it goes beyond just the terminology. So I put that into what in a theory is a magazine with full of articles, right? Which is the thing that I always used to think was a waste of time. Well, I got a call off the back of that with a brand that wants to innovate, approach younger people, and they're being advised by somebody who's perhaps from the kind of old school that still reads articles and things like that. So he actually read the article, advised them to come and reach out to me, and yeah, we're just in talks at the moment. But it made me realise that actually, a lot of the people that maybe perhaps I am. Wanting to get in front of and to talk to that have potentially got the money to be able to afford some of the services we offer, they perhaps are reading articles because they're slightly older generation or that kind of way inclined. So yeah, social media's a massive tool that should be utilized, but don't forget some of the other avenues. It all just depends on who you're going after, who's your ideal client you're targeting.
Completely agree with that. And like it's the same for franchisors, isn't it? Like whoever that ideal client is, that's where they should go to, where those people are. But it completely resonates with me that actually to hit the client that I think we think about ideal client, like who do we want? We also have to think about who can afford what we're doing, who is in the right position to do what we're doing. I am massively passionate, just like you, about getting younger people into franchising. And I think that this is such an important topic. But yeah, it's not something that one person's going to solve. But it's who do you appeal to? Do you appeal to those younger franchisors who understand maybe like a younger kind of demographic, or do you go to the more seasoned franchisors who, in theory, have the budget to actually run a full-on campaign and start to change the way that they recruit? And it's that change leadership at the top of those big franchises that I think that are going to drive change across the whole industry. I don't know how you feel about that, but that for me, and then it's like, how do you reach them? Well, a Facebook ad's not going to reach those people. These are like people of influence that are not going to be sat there doom scrolling on TikTok, are they? Like, I don't think.
The the thing is, I think appealing to people is one thing. So yeah, you probably need to be on places like young people. You probably need to be on TikTok, Instagram. Well, I mean, Instagram even maybe arguably for older people, right? But
Older
yes,
millennials like me.
yeah. So you got to kind of. So that's rude, wasn't it? Yeah, old people like you.
No, it's not.
He says being older, yeah, but yeah, it's all very well appealing, but what happens then when they sit down in front of franchisors and start to talk to them, and then they start, I see it very often, sending out 40, 60-page documents for them to read through. I struggle, and I'm in my 40s. I struggle to sit there and read through large blocks of text. So it then becomes a case of, well, how do you then make sure that whole process, like I was talking about, from attraction through to signature, how do you make it appeal to young people? But I think even like I say, I'm getting into my 40s. Attention span, the way the world is, I haven't got time to be sitting there reading 3 hours worth of documents. So digesting it in a different way through video, audio, or just that first impact, it's not so intense, I think is really important. So that's how I think it sort of shifts and changes to change the way that we display the information to people. The terminology can be slightly tweaked as well, but I don't think that's a major, like, I don't think sitting there saying squad and gang, as terminologies, are necessarily the way forward to appeal to younger people. I think that's what older people think younger people like. But
It's a bit ick, isn't it? It really is. And I'm in my 40s. When I look at like, okay, how do we attract people who are like 10, 20 years younger than me? Like, yeah, they're not using my language, but they're not using that kind of like, you know, like my 11-year-old daughter speaks an entirely different language to me, but they're somewhere in the middle, isn't it? But it's about, I think, the authenticity of it,
yeah,
without trying to be like the older person talking to the younger person, because it's quite patronizing and condescending. But also, like, Gen Z will spot it like a mile away and just completely turn off from it because it's not authentic. And I think from kind of my experience and my research, the biggest, most important thing about attracting those younger franchisees is, number one, education, because they need to understand what franchise is, finance, and making sure we've got the right finance routes for them, but also doing it in a way that actually genuinely interests them. Because like with millennials, when we were whippersnappers, when I bought a franchise, I just liked the franchise and I went with it. Like, actually, I think Gen Z, there is an element of that, but it's the values culturally have shifted. And I think franchisors that have been doing it for a very long time, who are seasoned pros and not knocking what they do because they obviously know what they're doing, I think we're at a very different point in time versus the last 10 years where things have to start to change. And I think that that is something that is potentially a struggle for the industry, if I'm honest.
mm. I think the other challenge trying to appeal to younger people is that they typically tend to be able to take bigger risks.
Mm.
So if they want to start something, why not just go and do it? Like, do you know?
Much more entrepreneurial now as a younger
Well,
generation.
the better educated on that side. There's a lot of TikToks out there that just tell people how to set up a business. You know, that's that then gives them confidence to go out there and set up a drop shipping business or whatever it is. You know, it's very easy to get that information to say, go and set. This is how you set it up. What then happens is maybe they fail, go back into employment, and then it's not until they're in their 40s and 50s when they go, do you know, what, I've had enough of this corporate life. I need to go and do something. And at that point, then they've got responsibilities and stuff like that. So they want to reduce the risk, and franchise makes sense. So I think it's just a bit of a self-fulfilling thing that franchising generally appeals to, on the whole, the older generation, because we've got to that point where we've looked at all other options and gone, well, it's all awful, isn't it? Let's hope this one's better.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's a bit reductive to say that, but
Tried that, nothing worked. I don't want to be on my own. I think that's the thing though, isn't it? We didn't want, I don't know about you, I bought my franchise 10 years ago. I'd come out of corporate. I was in my 30s, so I was already older than like the younger kind of, the ones that we're talking about. But I'd already had a business for myself at that point, and I found it really lonely. So for me, the key advantage of buying into a franchise was connection. And I think in the world of like where we're sitting with like AI generated everything and like it's coming for us, I think franchise kind of has that same issue, that actually the brands that are going to do really well in the next 5 to 10 years are brands that really understand, franchise brands that really understand the value of the emotional connection between franchisor, franchise network, and that potential audience, because that's what's going to set them aside.
so one of the soft, I think the soft factors are starting to come into play a lot more nowadays, because the traditional hard skills AI can do, right? Like, so one thing I try and I want to improve on a lot is my communication, because um, if you can communicate better with people, you can build that following. More people want to come around, be with you, work with you, be part of whatever your mission is. So if you can communicate better that what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and the direction you're going in, you're more likely to get people to follow. So I think that's something we could all work on and do better at, is how we communicate. And I think that for franchise brands it's across the whole thing. So communicating to attract new prospects, that's really important. How you go about doing that. Communicating with the franchisees internally. Not everybody wants a newsletter coming through from the head office team every single day with a new update. People can't cope with that. So if you can communicate in a more efficient manner or a better way for everybody, I mean, that's a minefield in itself, but that's going to be super important as well, you know. So, and with end clients and customers, the brands that are probably all about building community and connection with other human beings, which involves a lot of, good communication, they're going to do well as well. There appears to be loads of businesses springing up that are all about um, networking with other business owners, networking with each other, because we're trying to find each other. We've got a little bit lost and, like you say, a little bit lonely, and there just seems to be tons of those types of businesses out there, which is partly why we built the Franchise Innovation Think Tank, was to help people find that connection. You know,
Yeah, I think
I've gone on if I go on a big rant and I need reining in, by the way, just pull me in.
love it. No, I love it because it's the passion. That's it's that passion and that being truly entrenched in an industry where you have you are a true thought leader in this, and to hear those thoughts and to like feel that passion come through, I think is wonderful actually. It's part of the reason I was excited about having you
Thank
on.
you.
Because that's what you bring. It's cool. In terms of innovation then, what's the place of innovation in franchising? Because traditionally we are an industry built on compliance. We don't want disruptive franchisees. We want them to comply. We want them to use the ops manual. But without that innovation, how do you differentiate? So what do you see as like the role going forward in all the things that we've discussed? Like, where is innovation important?
That's a big question, isn't
Big
it?
question. So I'm going to ask you.
Um, where could they innovate better? I think in it, like I say, that communication is a real important thing, and I think there's space to innovate within um, supporting franchisees and how the franchisees are supported because it seems to be pretty standard across the industry, but kind of at varying levels. But okay, they go through training. That might be 2 hours up to 2 weeks, right? Like there's some form of training at the front end. Then there's ongoing support from head office. Sometimes there's a business coach that's involved. Sometimes there's a mentorship program involved. All great, but what's the next sort of step from there? Is that because there are still franchisees within networks failing, and that I mean, it's for a lot of different reasons, right? For some people, it's their external factors, something in their life, their family is going on that's meaning that they're not able to give full focus to building the business. But other times, it's just perhaps they're not getting it, like they're not completely understanding what the franchisor is telling them, or it's right at the front end. What they were told this business was is not what it's turned out to be, and perhaps they weren't prepared to do all of the sales and marketing they needed to get the thing up and running. So yeah, that support maybe needs to start earlier in the process, like right at the beginning while they're recruiting the franchisees. But I think there's something there, right? Like there are a percentage of franchise brands that don't work out, so there's something there could be innovated to improve that. And I think you see people like Tim Morris and Nicky Senior with the bridge that's starting to bridge the gap, and help the internal teams of the large brands to be trained up, to be able to manage and support the franchisees better. So yeah, there's that's where I see at the minute the main innovations that are happening.
Yeah.
The other one, which of course is obviously at the front end, like recruiting franchisees, how we're communicating with people there. Um, I think there's space for something called some people have coined it edutainment, right? So it's content that is entertaining as well as educational that appeals and attracts and draws people into their sphere, their followership, so then they can then sell to them at a later point once they trust the brand. So that yeah, a couple of areas there. Sorry, I've gone off on all sorts
Love
of
it.
tangents again.
Love it though, because there are, I think, within franchises, so many different areas. And this is your episode, not my episode. I'll talk about it on a different episode. But I completely agree with you. Support is one big area. It's a big passion of mine as well, because if your franchisee is a partnership, if your franchisees are failing, we need to do something about that. But I think it's an engagement issue, and how franchisors, like nearly every franchisor I speak to struggles with franchisee engagement. So they put on all these services, and they, like I've got franchisee boot camp, like they put them in franchisee boot camp, and they get frustrated when somebody disengages. It's like, actually, engagement is a relationship issue. We have to continue to build the relationship, and I think franchisor can only focus on so many things, and without a large team, it doesn't have to be a large team, without a good quality team, you can't keep your eye on all of the balls. So how do you then use innovation to make sure that no one's being left behind? So I completely agree with you there. And on the front end with the recruitment stuff, like I think that actually we're never going to move away from the traditional side of that recruitment, but there's so much possibility now that I think it's exciting. Whatever's coming is
So
exciting.
one other thing that sort of ties into that, and I think there's space for innovation at the front end in appealing to prospective franchisees that are perhaps a little bit younger, is they are growing up without having had mail delivered to them,
Mm.
right? Everything they've received from anybody has pretty much been digital from any businesses or people trying to appeal to them.
In here, isn't it? Everything's to the phone.
Yeah, exactly. So they haven't had the excitement of I'm trying to think of stuff when I was younger. So I used to play this fantasy football right before it was an online thing, and I'd get it posted to me, and I'd sit there read through how my team had done. Like this is like maybe when I was 9 or something, but stuff through the post was exciting because as a kid you didn't get it very often. Then as you grow older, everything's through the mail, you're getting leaflets left, right, and centre. It's awful. Well, there's something there, isn't there? Like if you can find a way to get something physical in front of someone, it becomes. I think it's coming back around again. It's a little bit exciting, you know.
I was actually on a franchisee call recently. Like we're just going full circle, because if you've only been in marketing for a short amount of time, you don't see the cycles. But when you've been in it for quite a long time, you see the cycles. It's like we've saturated this bit, now we need to move back round to the last bit, which was like snail mail and all the rest of it. I completely agree with you, because like from an online point of view, we're so saturated, it's so noisy, it's so difficult to be seen. And all these emails that we send from a franchise support point of view as well, like franchisees, they just get so much that they can't possibly read it and get through it. So then we switch to video, and now everyone's doing video, and like you're just scrolling past face after face. But yeah, I like that. Oh.
Yeah. So there's something I thought about when doing the franchise podcast. Do it face to face now rather than what I was doing, which was the disenfranchised, which was online. But the franchise podcast now is face to face, and I give them all a little gift bag, which have little goodies inside there and stuff like that, just because it allows me to do a little bit extra. You know, it, it gives them sort of a little bit of fun to add into the whole experience. You know, I mean, it makes it an experience. That's probably the thing that I think is missing in a lot of business nowadays is an experience or a feeling. People are looking for these experiences, and you're not finding it on emails, and sometimes videos don't even deliver some of the more boring ones anyway.
Think we get so caught up. I've got to do a video. It's got to be educational. We forget that actually it's social. We're there for entertainment. We have to entertain them.
Edutainment, that's what I mean. So
Yeah.
somebody else said it to me. It's like putting the pill in the pate for for a cat or a dog or whatever. You know, if you want them to eat the thing that you want them to have, which is your sales pitch or whatever, you've got to put it in the pate or a bit of cheese or something like that, something that they actually want.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely true. It is. And I think from a franchisor point of view, it's getting your head around that new wave as well, isn't it? Like, because it's not like it used to be. Um, I also think that from a franchise point of view, we're very much programmed for offline, having like an in-person, in real life business, because we have territories. So franchisee has a physical territory. You know, there are some online franchises, but by and large, you know, we're trading in like geography. And so we're acting like a geography business, whereas actually what's working really well in the online business space is very easily transferred into franchise, but it's just having that time. I think we're also short of time to actually just kind of stick your head up and see what else is working elsewhere. And I know like your background was recruitment, wasn't it? Before franchise, you were in recruitment. And so you've actually brought that knowledge. That's what I love, like bringing the knowledge from other places and applying it somewhere new. And that's where we see great results, because if you're just doing the same thing over and over again, like change happens when you make a change. I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think this is another avenue to explore when looking how can we improve, change, disrupt, or whatever. So I'm a fan of Arsenal Football Club, and yeah, get in. And I listen to podcasts that go into quite a lot of detail, analysing every aspect of the football club, not just the football game itself. They look at the the owners, the manager, and what they're doing to try and improve the club. And one thing that kind of really interested me was that Mikel Arteta was going and looking at um, American football games, basketball games, and speaking to the coaches over there and trying to understand from their perspective what is it that they're doing that's giving them 1% extra within games, what's helping to give them advantage. And in those American sports, a lot of them are around set plays. So they will have, you see it on those films, don't you? You know, the
Yeah.
person runs around here, then they swerve this way, and the ball's, you don't know where the American football's gone. And then finally it's with the guys throwing it to the person that's out there on their own, right? They have this choreographed kind of setup and approach. When this season or two that have just gone by for Arsenal, our set pieces have been one of the most successful parts of our gameplay. Like it's where we've scored a lot of goals from because they're quite choreographed. They will know what's going to happen. The opposition has no idea, but they choreograph it so that there's their best player who can header the ball is in space and is clear through to score. So you look at that and what they're doing, and think, okay, how can I apply that to what I'm doing in my day-to-day business? Not just trying to find set plays, but thinking about how does Mikel Arteta think about how he's trying to improve? He's not just going and doing the same thing again and again. He's gone outside of the industry. So yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people could do is what is everyone else doing, and how can we take the lessons and ideas from others and implement them into what we're doing. So yeah, I do it from the Arsenal podcast. I just listen to what they're doing and go, right, let's do that.
Right, Hail Mary, let's go. It's interesting though, isn't it, just on the football thing, because the Men's World Cup has just finished at the time of recording, and it was won by an English club, Chelsea. But we had significantly more people watch the Men's World Cup games on the Zone, which
It's
is
a World Club Cup, by the way. Yeah,
World Club. I was going the World Club Cup, yeah.
Club
But it
World Cup. Yeah.
had more views than the not like the Super Bowl. Like, I can't think what the thing is, but like actually we are beating American, like huge American advertising sports events. We're beating it with football, and it's because football. I used to work in football. Football is finally looking outside of football. But how can we make it more exciting from a broadcast point of view? How can we change the proposition that we're putting out there? How can we kind of put together tournaments like this one? And the women's sevens happened in between like the end of the WSL and the start of the women's Euros. Like finding innovation within tournaments that then draw bigger audiences, and how we make them broadcasting events. And we're finally in football, which is always like that, it's only football, but it's finally starting to beat these big American sport audiences. And I think that's so fascinating, because they've gone and looked at what those big American sport audiences are doing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure it's good for the football world.
Well, like
Totally.
Ballers League, for
It
example.
depends on what perspective you have on it. If you're looking at how can we get football into every corner of the world, it's great, right?
Yeah.
Like I get that. The more audiences that are watching, the better. But does it make it all about the money and commercial sort of side of things, and does that take away from the kind of heart of the game a bit? And so that's the negative part, I think. I mean, so where I'm going with that is the players. The players can't play 24, it can't play 365 days of the year. But with all these extra tournaments that are trying to squeeze everything they can out of them, yeah, it could damage the players. The quality of play could go down, and so you lose that. Yeah.
I'll bring this full circle so that we can conclude our football
Yeah,
chat.
sorry.
But I love it. Like, we could just do a whole podcast on this. But I had the pleasure of meeting Millie Bright back in September. So she was
Oh,
our
cool.
women's captain for the World Cup. She's Chelsea captain in the WSL. And she was saying like the rate that the players are getting injured is not to do with, technology. It's because of the game schedule. And she pulled out of the Women's Euros this year. Massive speculation. Why has she done that? She's so selfish. And she came out and said, it's to protect my mental health. I am burned out, and I know I'm not going to have a good next season for my club who pay me if I continue to go at this rate. And I think to apply that back to franchising, we have to be really careful from a well-being point of view, because all of this innovation is brilliant. Yes, we can work ourselves to the bone, creating all the content and doing all the things, but actually at the center of our businesses are people, and we have to look after those people, and we have to look after ourselves in that as well, because with my franchisor hat on, it's so easy to burn out. We have to be really careful of that.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's more forced retreats for franchisees.
Yeah.
Get that connection.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the support package that's being offered, right? Like as part of your fees, the royalties, managed service fees, a proportion of that goes towards a biannual retreat or something like that.
I'm there for that. with that, I'm going to ask you then, what would you do if you couldn't fail? If you could, if something in life or
I
business,
might go do that. Like just
I'd say that this is the
set
perfect thing.
set up a load of retreats so I can spend forever on holiday traveling, and then yeah, sorted. That was easy. I was you asked me before coming on air what that would be. There we go. Just answered it instantly.
If you couldn't fail, if you could do it and then you knew it was going to succeed, why not? Is that what you would do though?
Right now, yeah. I'm quite could be quite impulsive, which is why I end up getting into all these different things that I do. I like variety. Um, so yeah, I do whatever takes my fancy, and I do, and I don't think you can ever. So this is the thing. I don't think I can ever fail. Can only ever learn. You know. So even if I went out there and tried to do that as an idea, go out to set up a load of retreats for franchisees and have that as part of the package for franchisors they enroll their franchisees onto. Um, and it didn't work out for whatever reason because they just saw it as a holiday. I don't know. Um, yeah, at least I know that's a thing. That's an avenue not to go down for the future. Don't keep banging your head against the wall. Just learn from it. So yeah,
Love it.
it's
I
not
love
it's not the, it's not the best answer out there, is there? But you know, you learn from it, make it better, tweak it, change it, do something completely different. You know, you just learn. You don't fail in life. You just learn.
Ed, that's why you're a true innovator because of honestly, that's why, because of that. Because so many people are scared. We block ourselves because we're scared. We put these limiting beliefs in. But what you just said there, that is the heart of a true innovator. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, do you know what? It all came about from doing podcasts where I was interviewed other people from around the industry. So it's the industry really that's given me that kind of mindset and approach because, yeah, when you interview 100 odd people, all of them business owners, um, innovators in their own right, it starts to rub off and you start to learn from them.
Yeah, I get that. Ed, I've absolutely loved chatting with you. We could probably chat all day, but tell us how people get in touch with you.
Well, they can drop me an email if they want. Send me some stuff through the post. I'll be happy with that.
Send Ed a letter.
It'd be getting all the HMLC letters coming through. um, no, so yeah, probably check out my website www.thefranchise.com. You can find me Ed Purnell on LinkedIn. The podcast, the Franchised Podcast, is out there on Spotify, Apple, and all those places. Yeah, or if they really want to, ed@thefranchise.com is my email address.
Amazing. Ed will put all of those links in the show notes. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, has it been an hour already? Yeah, plenty. Well,
Oh,
nearly.
nearly.
Quite a while anyway. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Brilliant. It's
Cheers,
been really,
Stacey.
thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye bye.